Stop right there. Whatever you are doing, stop for a moment and listen to me with your whole attention. Something has already shifted in you, and you may not have the words for it yet, but you know this message is not reaching you by accident. You have been carrying a quiet ache that nobody around you seems to notice. You keep showing up, you keep holding yourself together, you keep moving through the day as if nothing is wrong, and yet inside you there is a question that will not leave you alone. Why does it feel like something is changing while everything visible still looks the same? Tonight I am not here to entertain you. I am here to name what has been happening, to show you the signs that have been speaking around you, to uncover the pattern underneath those signs, and to bring you all the way to the place where the truth finally feels settled in your bones. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you are going to recognize yourself in a way that brings relief, not confusion. By the time we close, you will understand why certain days have felt heavier, why certain people have begun to feel far away, why your inner world has been waking up while your outer world seems slow to answer, and why this message found you tonight with such strange precision. You will see that the pressure you have been feeling is not random, the distance you have been sensing is not punishment, and the unease in your spirit is not a sign that you are losing your way. You are hearing this by appointment, not because you were searching for a speech, but because something in you has been ready for recognition. There are moments when a word arrives exactly when the heart is finally open enough to receive it, and this is one of those moments. You did not stumble into this, you were brought here. And I need you to understand this from the beginning. What has been happening to you is not here to destroy you. It is here to reveal you. The signs are not there to confuse you. They are there to confirm that a deeper movement has already begun, and you are closer to understanding it than you think. Something has been happening to you that you keep trying to explain away. You feel it in the quiet spaces, in the pauses between conversations, in the moments when your old life no longer fits the way it used to. You feel it when you look at familiar things and realize they no longer carry the same weight. You feel it. Attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. When your spirit reacts before your mind can catch up, that is not emptiness, that is signal. You have noticed that some mornings arrive with a heaviness that has no obvious source. You wake up before the room is ready to speak, before the world has even formed its first sentence, and there is already a pressure sitting on your chest like a message waiting to be named. It is not always sadness, it is not always fear. Sometimes it is simply the weight of becoming aware that the life you have been living no longer fits the person you are becoming. You have also felt the sudden waves that come without warning. One moment you are steady, and the next moment a memory, a sentence, a passing thought, or even a silence in the room brings a feeling so strong you can almost taste its truth. You do not always know why it arrives, but you know it is real. It comes without permission, and then it leaves without explanation, and afterward you are left wondering why your own heart feels like it is speaking a language you have not fully learned. And there is this too. Conversations that used to feel normal now feel thin. Words that once seemed enough now land with no depth at all. You hear certain people speak, and you can sense that something in you has moved beyond the place where those exchanges used to satisfy you. It is not that you have become cold. It is not that you have become difficult. It is that your spirit is no longer willing to pretend that surface language is the same thing as truth. You have seen repeated patterns in the smallest places, the same numbers appearing at the same moments, the same timing returning in different situations, the same subtle nudge, the same inner pause, the same feeling that some invisible hand keeps placing a mark in front of you so you will not miss the message. You may have brushed it off once or twice. You may have told yourself it was coincidence. But coincidence does not keep knocking like that. These signs are not random disturbances. They are confirmations. The heaviness is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that something is being adjusted. The emotional waves are not proof that you are unstable. They are proof that your inner life is responding to a deeper truth. The distance from old conversations is not proof that you are losing connection. It is proof that your hunger for honesty has become stronger than your tolerance for what is shallow. And if you have been wondering whether you are the only one who feels this way, I need you to hear me carefully. You are not. There are many who are standing in the middle of outward normality while inwardly sensing that a new season has already begun. They cannot always explain it, neither can you, but that does not make it less real. Take a breath with me here. Let this land where it needs to land. You do not have to fight the recognition away. You only have to let it be seen. If even one of those things just landed in you, if your shoulders loosened at any point in the last few minutes, type the number 888. 888 is the sign of overflow, the mark that what has been held back is beginning to move again. Type 888, then come right back to me. Because beneath those signs is something even more precise, and I do not want you to miss it. The signs are only the surface. Underneath them is one pattern, one posture, one quiet mechanism that has been shaping how you move through your own life for far too long. You have been carrying the habit of reaching for what is real while standing in places that can only reward performance. That is the pattern. You keep bringing sincerity into spaces that answer with noise. You keep bringing depth into rooms that only know how to echo the surface. You keep offering your full heart to situations that were built to recognize your effort, but not your essence. This is why certain things have felt exhausting even when they looked correct. This is why you have sometimes felt invisible even while being useful. This is why doors that seemed close enough to touch still did not open at the moment you expected. You were not failing at life. You were exhausting yourself by trying to make a living connection out of something that was only ever asking for your labor. And the most painful part is that you became skilled at it. You became skilled at translating yourself. You became skilled at minimizing what you really felt so others would remain comfortable. You became skilled at staying useful, staying polite, staying steady, staying present, even when your own inner center was asking for something deeper than survival. The pattern has a quiet cruelty to it, because it makes you think the answer is to try harder. It makes you think the next effort will finally unlock what the last effort could not. It makes you believe that if you can just become more patient, more consistent, more accommodating, more admirable, then the closed place in your life will open on its own. But that is not how this works. The cost of staying in that pattern is that you slowly begin to confuse endurance with alignment. You start calling strain by a holy name. You start praising yourself for carrying weight that was never meant to become your identity. You begin to admire the very struggle that is quietly hollowing you out, and you do not notice that your own voice is getting softer in the process. There is no shame in this. Hear me clearly. There is no shame in recognizing a pattern you did not know you were living inside. You were never foolish for trying. You were never weak for staying. You were never broken for hoping that sincerity alone would be enough to open every door. You were simply living from a posture that made sense before you knew more. But there is something beneath this pattern, and this is where the message becomes deeper than recognition. Because the pattern itself was not the beginning. It was the result of a much older formation, one that reached into you before you had language for what was happening. Imagine a courtyard that has always belonged to you, even though you have not walked into its center for a very long time. Imagine that somewhere in that courtyard there is a tree whose roots spread far wider than the eye can see, roots that hold the whole space steady, even when the surface looks still. You have lived near that courtyard for years without fully entering it. You have passed by its gate. You have felt its presence. But something in you learned to remain at the edge. That tree is not weak, it is not dead, it is not absent. But long ago, something was done to the roots, not cut out, not destroyed, diminished, covered, pressed down by weather, by expectation, by survival, by the need to endure a season that never asked whether you were allowed to keep blooming. So the tree learned a smaller life above ground. It learned to conserve, it learned to bend. It learned to keep its leaves few enough to avoid attention. It learned to live in ways that would not draw interruption. And because the roots were taught to stay quiet, the branches also became quiet, not lifeless, quiet, waiting. That is the older formation inside you. A part of you learned to stay small enough to stay safe. A part of you learned to hold back what was alive so it would not be judged, pruned, misunderstood, or taken. A part of you learned that survival meant hiding the full reach of your own branches. And once that lesson is taught deeply enough, it can feel like identity. You may not remember the exact moment the dimming began. That is often how these things work. It was not one dramatic event. It was a repeated pressure, a repeated message, a repeated insistence that you should be less, quieter, easier, more manageable, more predictable. Over time, the tree did not stop being a tree. It simply forgot how wide it was allowed to grow. And yet the roots remember. The roots always remember. Even when the branches have learned restraint, the roots keep storing the original design. Even when the visible part has been trained into silence, something underneath keeps pushing upward. That is why you have been feeling the pressure. That is why certain old identities no longer fit. That is why the life around you feels as if it is asking you to stop pretending the courtyard ends at the gate. What was silenced in you is not gone. What was dimmed in you is not lost. What was pressed down in you is not erased. It is waiting for the right season of light, the right season of permission, the right season of recognition. And you are in that season now. Pause here with me. Do not rush past this. Let the image stand in front of you for a moment without forcing it to explain itself. The roots are still there. The tree is still there. The courtyard is still yours. If something inside you just sealed as you saw that image, if the courtyard and the roots felt familiar in a place you cannot fully explain, type the words, "I am awake." Let those words mark the moment where recognition arrived. Type, "I am awake," then come right back to me. Because the return is not about forcing the tree to grow. It is about letting it remember what was never truly taken from it. The solution is not a performance. It is a return. A return to what has been there under the quiet all along. A return to the part of you that does not need to prove it is alive. You do not need to manufacture clarity. You do not need to build worth. You do not need to earn the right to stand in your own center. What has been withheld from you by fear, by habit, by old conditioning, does not have to be conquered through strain. It has to be received with honesty. That is a very different path. One practice I want to name for you is simple and precise. I call it the morning threshold. When you wake, before you touch your phone, before you answer anyone, before you let the world name your day, sit still for a few breaths and say inwardly, "I am entering the courtyard again." You are not trying to force an outcome. You are returning your attention to the place in you that was always meant to receive the day instead of brace against it. The second practice is just as simple. I call it the evening witness. At the end of the day, do not ask only what you accomplished. Ask where you felt most like yourself, even for a moment. Ask where the old strain showed up. Ask where the roots stirred. This is not a task list. It is stewardship. It is how you learn to tend what is alive without trying to control it. Because what you are learning now is how to live from the center of the tree rather than the edge of the fence. You are learning that presence is not the same as performance. You are learning that peace is not the reward for proving yourself. You are learning that the courtyard opens when you stop standing outside it in your own mind. And yes, there will be days when the old pattern tries to call you back. It will whisper that usefulness is safer than truth. It will tell you that shrinking is wiser than being seen. It will ask you to return to the familiar ache, because the familiar ache has at least been predictable. But you do not belong to that smaller life anymore. You belong to the root system that still carries the original design. You belong to the deeper movement that knows how to rise without apology. You belong to the courtyard that has always held your name, even when you forgot how to hear it. And the more you tend to that belonging, the less power the old dimming has over you. If this recognition has confirmed something your spirit already knew, let your like be your amen without words, not as a metric, as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Stay with that for a moment. Let the agreement settle. Sometimes the heart says yes before the mouth can form the language. Sometimes the quiet response is the truest one. There is someone in your life who came to mind while I was speaking, someone who is quietly tired, secretly seeking, and carrying a posture no one around them really sees. Someone who works harder than they admit, who smiles through strain, who looks composed while something inside them is longing to be understood. Someone whose face just moved through your mind as if it had been waiting at the door. Send this to them, not as a recommendation, as a delivery. You are not spreading information. You are placing bread in the hands of someone who has been hungry in silence. You are not performing kindness. You are answering a need that was already there. That is why this message has weight. It does not merely inform. It arrives. So let us set the seal properly now, because the whole listening has been moving toward this confirmation. You have seen the signs. You have named the pattern. You have stood inside the courtyard and felt the roots remember their own depth. Nothing about you is random. Nothing about you is too late. Nothing about you is beyond return. You are confirmed. You are remembered. You are being restored to what was always yours. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified by the years that taught you to stay small. You are being gathered back to your center. You are being steadied in what is real. You are being made ready for the life that matches your depth. Right now, all across the world, there are others hearing this same recognition in their own quiet places. They are not strangers to the ache. They are not strangers to the waiting. They are not strangers to the moment when something invisible becomes undeniable. You are part of that hidden company, and that is exactly why this reached you tonight. It is sealed. You have not been abandoned in this hour. You have not been overlooked in this season. You have not been called this far, only to be left standing at the edge of your own becoming. What has been spoken over you has already begun to work in the quiet places. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly like roots drinking after a long drought, quietly like dawn entering a room before anyone has words for the light, quietly like a door that was never locked, only waiting for your hand to return. You do not need to force what is opening. You do not need to chase what is already moving toward you. You do not need to beg for what has already been marked for your name. There is a kind of arrival that does not announce itself with noise. It enters with peace. It settles with certainty. It leaves no room for confusion once it has come. You are learning that not every delay is denial. You are learning that not every silence is absence. You are learning that not every closed season is a rejection. Some things are held back only because the ground was still being prepared beneath you. Some answers arrive later because your spirit needed to be strong enough to carry them. Some doors remain still until the version of you who walks through them is ready to recognize the room on the other side. And you are readying now, not by striving, not by performing, by returning, by remembering, by letting the deeper part of you rise without shame. I want you to hear this slowly. The life that has felt far from you has not been erased. The promise that has stayed awake inside you has not been broken. The hunger that has refused to disappear is not an embarrassment. It is evidence. It is evidence that something in you was made for more than survival, more than repetition, more than carrying what never belonged to you in the first place. So breathe again, and let this become more than information. Let it become permission. Permission to stop shrinking when you enter certain rooms. Permission to stop explaining away what your spirit already knows. Permission to stop naming exhaustion as devotion when it is really the sign that you have been carrying too much for too long. Permission to stop calling distance a disaster when it may be the mercy that is separating you from what could not recognize your depth. Permission to stop treating your inner knowing as if it must first be approved by someone who cannot see the whole picture. You have spent long enough translating yourself for people who only hear the part of the sentence that benefits them. You have spent long enough softening your truth to make it easier for others to receive. You have spent long enough standing at the door of what is real, waiting for the right moment, the right proof, the right confirmation, the right external sign that would finally tell you you are allowed to step forward. But now the confirmation is not outside you, it is in you. It is the way your chest moved when the words found the hidden place. It is the way your mind became still when the deeper layer was named. It is the way something in you recognized itself before you could explain it. That recognition matters. It is not small, it is not sentimental. It is a form of knowing. And once you know, you cannot unknow. That is why this moment matters so much. Not because everything changes in a single breath, but because the center from which you breathe begins to change. You begin to listen differently. You begin to choose differently. You begin to recognize what costs you peace before it costs you years. You begin to feel the difference between what is demanding your dimming and what is inviting your life. This is the turning. Not the end of the story, but the moment the story stops being ruled by fear. You may still feel the old habits reaching for you. They may still come with the voice of caution, the voice of exhaustion, the voice that says smaller is safer, and silence is wiser, and hiding is holy. But now you can hear those voices without obeying them. Now you can name them without becoming them. Now you can let them pass without giving them the seat at the center, because what is true in you is stronger than what was taught to you by pressure. What is true in you is deeper than the pattern that once protected you. What is true in you is older than the fear that learned to speak first. That is why this closing is not an ending in the ordinary sense. It is a seal over what has already been awakened. A seal over the part of you that has remembered the courtyard. A seal over the roots that were never dead. A seal over the branches that have been waiting for permission to rise into their full measure. You are not returning to who you used to be. You are returning to who you were before the dimming taught you to live too small. You are returning to the original dignity of your spirit. You are returning to the place in you that does not have to fight for belonging because it was always meant to belong. And there is peace in that return. There is rest in that return. There is a quiet authority in that return that does not need to announce itself to be real. You may notice, even now, that the burden shifts when you stop arguing with your own becoming. You may notice that the breath deepens when you stop demanding proof before you trust the movement. You may notice that the inner noise loosens when you allow the truth to be simple. You are being led back. You are being gathered back. You are being made whole in the places that once learned to live, split from themselves. That is the mercy in this hour. Not that you are asked to become someone else, but that you are invited to come home to the one you have been carrying beneath all the noise. And so I speak over you one more time. You are covered in this hour. You are held in this hour. You are strengthened in this hour. You are being restored in this hour. You are being led by a wisdom deeper than fear. You are being kept by a love that has not lost track of you. You are being gathered by a hand that knows exactly where to place you. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not invisible to what matters most. You are being confirmed in the hidden place where no one else has had to understand it for it to be true. Right now, all across the world, there are hearts receiving this same quiet confirmation. Some are hearing it in a bedroom with the light low. Some are hearing it in a kitchen after everyone else has gone to sleep. Some are hearing it while holding back tears that finally have somewhere to go. Some are hearing it in places where no one would guess that a miracle can begin so softly. But it is happening. The recognition is spreading. The return is happening. The quiet agreement is being written where noise could never reach, and that is why this is sealed now, not because every question has been answered, but because what needed to be known has been known. Not because every road is visible, but because your feet now remember the path. Not because the whole future has been shown, but because the next step is no longer hidden in the same way. Walk gently from here. Hold loosely what must not be forced. Attention. You need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuzazara readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.